selective on the things that we bring into our home. We are constantly having to cleanse our home from just things that'll creep in. Guys deal with struggles in a whole different way by their eyes, and so what they see is not going to affect us like it would them. Anytime that the internet is on, there's somebody in the room, and we're usually in a big area where there's people, or there's always one person.
It's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is Wednesday, June 2nd. It's been a messy day. I've been having some technical issues. I apologize. I'm going to be late, but I've got some videos coming and I promise they're going to be good. First up, this actually comes from one of my subscribers who is a teacher, and her name is April. Thank you guys. Thank you, April, so much for bringing this to my attention, and I hope you have a great rest of your year. I love getting all kinds of feedback from you guys, and I also love when you guys send me things that I have not seen before. And that's exactly what happened today when April sent me a video of an episode from the Duggars, which was titled Josie's Finally Home, and it was all about the internet in the Duggar household. We know that the Duggars have had some issues, serious issues with the internet. In fact, Josh Duggar is currently facing some serious problems with the federal government. He is facing 2 counts of having CSAM, downloading and receiving, and possessing, and he's facing up to 40 years in prison. Now, the Duggars have been always very outspoken about the internet and the dangers that are out there. They have spent a lot of their lives trying to filter what it is that their kids can and cannot see.
We do not have open internet. It is all protected.
And in this case, the Duggars have effectively minimized things to the extent that instead of actually teaching their children about what they should see and what they shouldn't see and giving them skills, it sounds like they just wanted their kids not to look at anything.
We really want to be selective on the things that we bring into our home.
In this episode, Michelle actually talks about having unfiltered internet. She actually says that her kids are not allowed to use the internet without someone else in the room.
We are constantly having to cleanse our home from just things that'll creep in.
But what's interesting is that at one point she actually says that men cannot help themselves. And if you were to allow a man to be on the internet without actually having any sort of filters or accountability partners, that their eyes will wander. And so they shouldn't be putting things into their mind the same way that they shouldn't be putting junk food into their mouth.
They'll be the first to tell you they're not strong enough to handle having an internet access without protection.
So from her perspective, they've spent a lot of time trying to put internet filters onto this. And now we know that with Josh's case, internet filters played a huge role in his arrest. In fact, they claimed that he downloaded a Linux partition and installed it into his desktop. And then the Linux partition, which is not compatible with the internet filtering software, Covenant Eyes. So back as early as 2000, Jim Bob was obsessed with internet filters. Internet filters happen everywhere. Listen, if you go to the school, there's a filter on it. If you go to a public library, there's a filter on it. Odds are, if you have an employer, there's a filter on it. In fact, my husband's old employer, they actually couldn't even look at Facebook. And I know at my previous employer, there was a lot of sites that were restricted that we simply could not access. When I go to the hospital with my son, there's specific websites through their network you can't get to. So having filters or certain websites banned isn't a new thing. It's been going on for decades. But this idea of completely cutting out and not allowing someone access to anything and not allowing the eyes to see anything that they deem as not or defrauding. Now, to give you a sense of understanding, in the IBLP, they would look at an eye trap as being defrauding. So me wearing this outfit, if they saw this on their internet, would be actually considered scandalous. It would be considered me tempting a man because, one, I have a peekaboo here and I have a low neckline. I'm drawing attention away from my eyes. So in her mind, I would actually not be allowed on their internet. They would have to filter out just about anything because what I'm wearing is considered, I will defraud a man, I will make him stumble. It's my fault, he can't contain himself. So because this group seems to have this idea that men are not responsible and it's the women's fault, they're going to do everything to make sure that the man can't see anything that will make him stumble. It's so stupid. I actually found this old video of Jim Bob once talking about how he saw a woman in a bikini and he had to confess to her that he had literally seen a woman in her bikini. It's unreal. So her obsession with filters from this very episode is from 2011. What I noticed in this clip though is that they said, we have things coming into this house that we have to constantly cleanse to get out of our home. How long has it been a problem in the Duggars' home that the kids have been looking at content that's not considered okay? Now, what I've seen with Josh is that his pendulum did not swing from you can't look at anything to, okay, now I'm just going to exercise self-control. No, it went from you can't look at anything to I'm going to look at the most obscene, horrific content online.
Anytime that the internet is on, there's somebody in the room, and we're usually in a big area where there's people, or there's always one person.
And we can't say for certain why. He's probably attracted to kids, that's part of it. But the other part of it is, was he actually given skills to control himself online? Was he actually given tools to know, listen, this is not something I should be looking at, this is not something okay, or because everything was bad, it makes it so, well, if this is bad, I might as well go all the way over here.
It's limited.
You know
Everything's limited.
You're not going to put garbage in your mouth, so don't put it in your mind.
You know how they always say that, like, if you tell a kid they can't do it, it's going to make them want to do it 100 times more? A lot of times I wonder why and how well these rules worked for them. Jim Bob Duggar has been obsessed with these kind of laws for years, and filters for years. In fact, in the early 2000s, when he was in the House of Representatives in Arkansas, he wanted to make a law that all schools, public schools and public libraries had to have filters. So in this case, I don't know if it passed back then, but filters at public schools and libraries have been ongoing for years. The problem with a lot of filters, and a lot of advocates will say, that children need to be able to discern what it is that they're looking for and understand that they have free will, freedom of choice, and they need to pursue knowledge. A lot of times filters like this will filter out things like anything that teaches you about human sexuality, anything like if you are a child or say a teen and you are exploring who you are and perhaps you are part of the LGBTQ plus and you want to search for that, some of these filtering tools will filter out anything related to that. Or if you say want to learn more about your anatomy or your own health related to that, that could also get filtered out. So you're not just filtering out stuff where you're seeing me in my defrauding top, but you could also be filtering out educational content that could help a teenager. So when the Duggars filtered out pretty much everything and limited their children to knowing next to nothing about anything to do with being with people because all of it was bad, it has this deviantness that creates this curiosity in people. They're trying to turn off something in a person that you can't turn off. Now, that doesn't mean that every single person that's in these cults does these types of things, but it seems like the rules in this cult protect the men from doing these types of offenses. And then also, because she said, we've had these problems trying to cleanse our house of this, it seems like the Duggars have been trying to cover up problems of Josh having issues with this. When Josh came out in 2015 and said he had an issue with looking at these types of images online, he wasn't talking about children. Most assumed he was talking about adults. And then in 2006, there was this rumor that, or 2006, 2007, there was this rumor that he was on a campaign working for Jim Holt, and he got caught looking at websites. So his issue with looking at sites has been ongoing, and the Duggars have been trying to tell us about this problem for years. From Jim Bob in the early 2000s trying to push for filters, from her talking about how they need to have accountability partners. Yes, she said her kids were not qualified or could not sit by themselves and look at a computer because everything online will tempt them. In her eyes, everything is bad, literally everything. And so kids are scared of everything. And then she blames men for not being able to control themselves. So does this mean that maybe in some weird way, Michelle Duggar is like, well, Josh just can't control himself. This is what happens when you have unlimited access. But then my question is knowing that they've put all these filters in place, are they really effective when your son has taken incredible steps to work around filters by downloading something like a partition so that he can get to the sites he wants and no one can watch him? Does the eyes constantly being on him, did he want more freedom? How did those filters work? It's not their fault that he did what he did, but how much control is too much? And are filters effective? And their push for filters doesn't seem to have stopped their son from doing this. Was this their answer? Did they think they could control him through filters? People like Josh you can't control. And it's time for Josh to face the music. What do you think about all of this? Is this new to you? Do you think filters work? Or are you just like Josh was gonna get to whatever he wanted? Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye guys.